Unsolved cases that keep me up at night. On January 16, 2014, a group of 4 friends were playing a game of dares. One of them was dared to go into this cornfield that was rumored to be responsible for the many disappearances in the area. The friend agreed, following the rules of the game, and ventured into the cornfield by himself. For what felt like hours had gone by, the 3 friends had lost track of the man and were starting to get worried. Too afraid to go on themselves, they contacted the police, and the police showed up after a while and searched the area. They searched and they didn't find any trace of the guy. But they did find his phone, and after going through his phone, they found the last photo captured before his disappearance.
You ever wondered what happened to Jackie Kennedy's blood-stained suit after the assassination of JFK? After shots were fired, blood from JFK's injuries seeped into her pink outfit. Following the incident, Jackie refused to take off the suit on the way to the hospital and even when she was transported to Washington. Jackie continued to wear the suit even when Vice President Lyndon Johnson was sworn into office. And this was broadcasted nationally so everyone could see. Jackie stated that she kept the suit on because she wanted the assassin to see what he had done, and that her only regret was wiping her face clean of blood before going on camera. It wasn't until the next morning that she took off the suit. Today, her suit, shoes, stockings, and even handbag remain preserved in the National Archives. And they will remain hidden for nearly a century. In 2003, these items were officially donated by the Kennedy's daughter, Caroline. And at that time, she requested that these items remain hidden for 100 years. Meaning that the suit won't be on display until the year 2103.
We're asleep, and she gets up to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh man, I have to go to the bathroom too. So I'm going to go to the bathroom in the main bathroom outside the room. I go out, I come back in, and I'm like, why'd you turn my light on my side of the bed? Like, it's 12, we're going to bed. Like, we're in bed. She's like, I didn't do it. I thought you did. I'm like, okay, well, somebody's trying to get our attention. My phone rings. It's my little sister. She says, hey, Bob, sorry, are you awake? And I'm like, I am now. And I go, my light just came on. She goes, that's why I was calling you. She said, is Nicole there? I'm like, yeah. She put her on speaker. She said, Nicole, I don't want to get personal, but did your mom have miscarriages before you? And she's like, yeah. She goes, I'm seeing 3 people in the room right now trying to get your attention. And they're your 2 brothers and your sister that weren't born.
One of the strangest missing persons cases I've ever seen revolves around someone that might not even exist. Let me explain. In 1989, a local Chicago television station called WMAQ was wrapping up their regularly scheduled television for the night, when all of a sudden the audio was cut and the image on screen was changed to a strange missing persons panel. The image of the individual shown was too low quality to make out any details, and no information other than the woman's name, Joanna Lopez, were given. The broadcast wouldn't be too out of the ordinary if it wasn't for the fact that she was never mentioned anywhere again. And when people tried to find her, they found no records of a woman named Joanna Lopez in Chicago, even with police filings. So, who was this woman in the broadcast? And how did a missing persons panel for her end up on the news? Well, when the news agency was asked about the panel, they claimed it was sent by an anonymous person, which leaves us with the most likely answer being that it was a prank or an alternate reality game. And as for who was actually in the photo, the lead seems to be a woman by the name of Rachel Lopez. A photo of her was found in a West Chicago yearbook from 1990. And although she has a different first name than Joanna, the fact that they look so similar and share a last name leads many to believe that she could be the one in the photo. Sadly though, it seems like we may never know for sure, as no one has been able to contact the woman in the yearbook.
The mouse that it would take to set a fire in the bedroom where the child is in the crib sleeping. A burn pattern that goes from underneath that child towards the door of the bedroom. That is caused by likely something. It's a significant burn pattern as he described it. It could have been alcohol, it could have been something else that gets consumed by the fire. But a significant burn pattern shows that there is something set significant and intentional. And at that point, to start a fire in that room is ignorance, and to walk away, not trying to escape from that fire, and immediately starting another fire in the living room. And then to claim it's an accident, that it got out of control, that's an extreme recklessness, and that's intent, that's maliciousness, that's a definition of malice. As he walked away from the fire that he just lit in another room with a small baby, walk into the front room, light that fire, and then leave the residence standing outside watching it burn till it becomes too much to go back in. That's malice. And so malice is here in both counts, because all that murder requires is malice aforethought and what fascination required to watch that burn, knowing that that child was in there that was going to die, and not calling 911, not saving that child when he could have, and not having started the fires in the first place. He has to take responsibility. And so there's much more here than probable cause. So I would ask the court to find probable cause in both charges in this case.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. The testimony, listening to both sides, question testimony. I believe the state has, in fact, met their burden. So therefore, I am going to find that there is probable cause to charge the individual with the bound over for General Sessions Court for both charges.
Jericho, New York, a man finally found out what was inside the heavy barrel in his crawl space. In 1999, a new homeowner demanded that the old barrel that was in the crawl space be removed before he closed on the house. However, the previous owner said that it was there when he moved in. In fact, his kids used to play hide and seek behind it. So they pull it out to the curb and open it. A horrific smell wafts out of this barrel, and they realize that the body of a woman had been shoved inside. She was a pregnant Hispanic female in her 20s, and it was determined that she had been beaten severely. The drum also contained plastic pellets, artificial green dye, a fake plant stem, and a purse and a notebook. Using a special light, investigators were able to read the notebook, and one page said, "Don't be mad, I told the truth." Inside her purse, they also found a residency card, and they were able to look up the immigration number. They found that the body belonged to a woman named Reina Marroquin, and she worked at a synthetic flower factory in the 60s. One of the phone numbers in the address book belonged to a woman named Kathy Andrade, and investigators called her, and this woman immediately broke down in tears after hearing Reina's name. She told them that her friend had been sleeping with a married man. She got pregnant, and he'd been giving her money and telling her that he'd leave his wife and kids for her. As she entered into the 9th month of pregnancy, she found out that this was all a lie, and she freaked out and decided to call the wife and tell her everything. She then called Kathy and told her that the man had threatened to kill her. The last time she'd ever heard from Reina was January in 1969, but Kathy never knew the father of Reina's unborn child, so she didn't know who to refer the police to. After the discovery of the remains was made public, a man also left an anonymous tip with the police. He said that Reina had been sleeping with her boss at the synthetic flower factory. And who was this boss but none other than a man named Howard Elkins, one of the previous owners of the home. He sold the house in 1972, and when police located him at his new residence in Florida, he was extremely combative. The now old man denied everything and refused to give a DNA sample. He was found the next day in his neighbor's car with a shotgun wound to his head. He'd bought a shotgun from Walmart shortly after his police interrogation and taken the easy way out. DNA taken from Howard's body was a match to the fetus found in Reina's stomach. While justice wasn't necessarily served, this story does have a bittersweet ending. They contacted Reina's mother back in El Salvador and found that she had been wondering what happened to her daughter for 30 years after she moved to New York to work in fashion. And how creepy is this? Her mom had had recurring nightmares of her daughter being trapped in a small space screaming for help. Reina's body was transported back to El Salvador, and her mother passed away just a month later, and they were buried side by side.
I'm sorry, bud. Do you mind if I talk to her again? Okay, I'm gonna bring Kyle in here with you, okay?
This is 16-year-old Kyle Hooper, Amber Wright's half-brother. He's just finished a grueling one-on-one interview with a detective and is clearly distressed.
Both your kids are in thing for murder.
Amber too?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, we told you it wasn't a storm. I mean, it was like everything was planned.
Approach everybody?
Everybody.
Admitting that everything was planned is extremely important because it proves mens rea, premeditated criminal intent. So not only has Kyle essentially admitted to murder on videotape, he's also admitted to a specific degree of murder. First-degree murder.
We're gone.
They took my phone.
Everything's gone. James is on it too.
On what? Is it on this?
Now Kyle has also unexpectedly implicated his stepfather, James Havens III, stating that he is in on it too. Kyle Hooper, much like his sister, has told detectives a bit of a story while his mother was present. However, they likely realize at this point that he is the weakest link, as he was the one who originally confessed to his mother. He certainly doesn't seem to want to tell the full story in front of her, so the detective pulls him out into a room alone, where he sits wiping ink from his hands from his fingerprinting. Little does he know, a confrontation is about to begin.
So, I'm sorry. What's wrong? I want to be perfectly honest with you, okay? This is how I work. I'm giving you an opportunity right now to lie to me. Okay? If you take that opportunity, okay, you're a fool.
No, I'm not lying to you at all.
Everything that comes out of your little mouth right now better be 110% the truth, okay? Alright, now let's start back at the beginning of this. And this is your one and only last chance to correct any discrepancies you may have of the story that you told me. Okay? Want to start fresh?
Man, I'm scared. Really am.
Kyle, I'm sure you are. Okay?
No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to go through all this.
As if butchering this family wasn't enough, the killer then took a shit in their toilet and ate all their ice cream. The Miyazawa family lived in a house in Setagaya, Japan. The family of 4 had been living in the house for a decade, and it was a duplex style, so their grandma actually lived in the unit directly next to them, but they didn't share an entrance. Most of the neighborhood had already moved out at this time. This was partially because the house was right next to a skate park and it would get really rowdy and noisy, and the week before the murders, the dad actually went over and confronted some of the teenagers. A stranger's car had also parked in front of their house, which they found creepy. Animals like cats and rats were also showing up tortured and killed around their neighborhood. On the night of December 30th, 2000, the family was killed around 11:30 p.m. the day before New Year's. The next morning, the grandmother became concerned after finding the phone lines were dead and the killer had actually cut their phone lines. This is when she discovered all 4 family members had been brutally murdered. Police determined that the killer entered the house by climbing a tree and getting in through an open window on the 2nd floor bathroom. This was also the side of the house that was directly facing the skate park. He then strangled their 6-year-old son Ray with his bare hands. The dad, Mikio, must have heard this because he then rushed upstairs and fought the killer, injuring him. The killer stabbed Mikio in the head with a sashimi knife, and it actually broke off inside his head before he moved on to killing the mom and daughter. Yasuko and 8-year-old Nina were the most violently attacked, and this was with a knife from inside the house. What's weird is that the killer then remained inside the house for up to 10 hours. He accessed the family's computer at 1:18 a.m. He also went into their kitchen and drank 4 bottles of tea and ate 4 ice creams. He also left his poop inside the toilet without flushing. Since Mikio injured him while trying to defend his family, the killer also tended to his wounds using the family's first aid kit. From this, the police were able to extract DNA, and they found no matches, but they did find out that the killer was half white, half Asian. Despite the house being filled with dead bodies, the killer also took a nap on the couch. He also must have changed clothes before leaving, because the police found a bucket hat, a scarf, a sweater, a jacket, jeans, and South Korean-made shoes inside the house that didn't belong to the family. The sweater the killer was wearing had only sold 10 units in the Setagaya area and 130 throughout the country, but they still weren't able to track down who bought these. Inside the fanny pack, the police found grip tape, which is often used by skaters, and they also found sand that was connected back to an Air Force base in California. The police have also said that the killer must have been 15 to 30 years old and of a healthy physique since he was able to climb the tree and get into the house. It's surprising that no DNA matches have been found, but it seems likely that this person has ties to the military or maybe even the mob, and that's why they haven't been identified yet.
Mysterious case absolutely does not sit right with me. Someone knows something and has not come forward. On the 12th of July 2015, 18-year-old Tiffany and her parents attended a graduation party in New Jersey. At around 9 p.m, one of Tiffany's friends spoke to her parents and claimed that they were really annoyed because Tiffany had used their debit card without permission. Tiffany initially denied this to her friend, but then did admit this to her mum Diane a little bit later. At this point, they were all outside Tiffany's house, and Diane went inside to find her husband. When she returned outside of the house, Tiffany had vanished. Now, they were able to see Tiffany on the deer cameras that they had outside the house. She appears to be walking down the driveway in her normal clothing and white headband. When they tried to find Tiffany, they actually made a terrifying discovery. Her phone was lying on the floor at the bottom of the driveway. Immediately, they knew something was wrong, as Tiffany never had her phone out of her sight. At 11:30 p.m, her family called the police. Little did they know, 27 minutes earlier, Tiffany had been hit by a train. Frustratingly, pretty much straight away, police presumed this death to be a self-unaliving. However, that just didn't seem to fit with the evidence presented. All of Tiffany's family and friends said how much of an upbeat person she was and that she was really happy at the time. She was making plans for the future, and the autopsy also showed that she had a clean toxicology report. Now, in the deer cam footage, she was fully clothed, but when she was found, she was just in her underwear with no shoes on. Upsettingly, 2 weeks after her death, Tiffany's mum actually found her missing trainers and headband more than a mile away from the tracks. Could someone have murdered Tiffany and then dumped her body on the train tracks to make it look like she did this herself? Tiffany's parents certainly think so. They definitely suspect some foul play was involved. This case made me terrified to go to the cinema. This is the case of the horror in Screen 9. James Holmes was raised in California. His mum was a nurse and his dad was a scientist. From a young age, he was experiencing night terrors and allegedly actually tried to take his own life when he was just 11 years old. He was apparently obsessed with guns and weapons and had dreamed of becoming a mass murderer. Between May and July 2012, he legally bought 4 guns. Background checks were conducted and he was allowed the weapons. He also bought spike strips, which, if you don't know, pop the tyres of cars if they chase after you. On July the 19th, just hours before tragedy would unfold, James mailed his notebook to his psychiatrist. Inside the notebook, James detailed his plans to kill. The notebook was actually discovered later on undelivered. Just prior to entering a cinema in Aurora, James rang a crisis line to tell them about his plans to kill. However, the call was disconnected after just 9 seconds. At the midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises, CCTV captures James walking into the cinema. He walks into Screen 9, props open the door, and then walks back out again. Shockingly, he goes to his car and gets guns out and gas canisters. He re-entered the screen at about 12:38 p.m. and set off 2 gas canisters. When he entered Screen 9 again, he immediately opens fire on the audience, instantly killing 10 people. 2 others later died in hospital from their injuries. An additional 70 people were injured. This was an absolutely packed out cinema. James also shot at people as they scrambled to exit the screen. His youngest victim was a 6-year-old girl. Witnesses said this all unfolded as there was actually a gunfight on the screen, and initially they all thought it was special effects and just part of the film. Police were actually on the scene very quickly after the first 911 call. James surrendered to the police and was arrested in the car park. He was apparently very calm when he was arrested and told police that he had booby-trapped his apartment. When police investigated his apartment, this was found out to be true. He was sentenced to 12 consecutive life sentences.
The morning of November 29th, Christine Young suddenly woke up out of a deep sleep feeling a cold sensation come over her. It was exactly 5:45 a.m. and she noticed that her arms and legs were starting to go numb. She thought it was strange but brushed it off in the moment, not knowing what it could have meant.
After all, she needed to get some sleep so she could wake up to meet with her daughter later in the morning like they had planned for a while now. But when Christine's daughter Ashley didn't show up for their arranged meeting, she began to worry. She started frantically calling Ashley's phone but got no response. So she called each one of Ashley's friends to see if they had any idea where she was. This is when she learned that her daughter Ashley had plans to meet up with 30-year-old Jared Chance and hadn't been seen since leaving a local bar with him. A few days later, police receive a disturbing phone call from a concerned neighbor in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This neighbor explains that he's just stumbled upon a tarp with a stream of blood leaking from it. When police arrive, they find that the tarp is wrapped around a human torso. The owner of that apartment? Jared Chance. The DNA of the torso is tested and it comes back that it is human and that it does belong to Ashley Young. Ashley's arms and legs were later found in a box in Jared's apartment. That's when Ashley's mom, Christine, recalls the incident from a few days prior. She believes that at the time she woke up at exactly 5:45 in the morning was the time of her daughter Ashley's death. Unfortunately, Ashley's head has still never been located.
Hi.
You guys have kids in the house?
Yes.
We now know they had been scrambling to have someone unlock the chains.
Okay, do you mind if we come in and just take a look, make sure everybody's safe and everything's okay?
Okay, what kind of call did you get?
Well, we got a call that there was a young female walking around saying that she came from a house over here. We were able to find out that this was a house, and we just wanted to check and make sure everybody was okay.
Think she came from here?
That's what she said.
From inside this house?
I think so. Otherwise, we wouldn't be knocking on your door at Sunday.
Did she say her name?
I don't know. Did she say her name?
I don't know offhand, but we need to check.
We just need to check and make sure everybody's okay.
Once we get in, make sure everything's okay. We'll get out of your
We
hair.
have a lot where we're packing.
Okay,
We're getting
that's
ready
fine,
to
that's
move.
No worries.
So it's a mess in here. So.
All right, that's fine.
We don't mind messes. We've been
But
in
I
worse.
mean,
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Okay.
No weapons in the house or anything like that.
no.
I do have a gun that's it's locked up.
Okay, locked up is good. We like that.
Okay.
Okay, well, we're gonna come in and check. Okay, we just want to make sure everybody's okay.
Oh, do you have a search warrant or anything? Or
No, we
what?
don't need one, sir.
As sheriff's deputies move through a door into a horrifying landscape, the windows are closed. The room is swelteringly hot, magnifying the stench of excrement, decaying garbage, mounds of mothers molding food, every sofa, counter, floor covered in layers of trash, and unopened toys.
Hi, kids. Hello, it's okay.
Louise Turpin quickly tries to follow the deputies.
All right, stay there for me for now.
An officer distracts David Turpin with topic after topic.
Okay, well, what's your name, sir?
David.
Where are you guys planning on moving to? Anything
No,
like that?
my job's moving.
Oh, okay.
Louise Turpin is directed to go back to the front door.
Why don't you stay over here with my partner, okay?
A pale, emaciated child moves through the living room, her clothes dirty, so is her hair.
Oh, okay. What do you do for work?
I'm an engineer.
Oh, engineer.
But
35 goes another 10.
Louise Turpin nervously probes again.
You got a call?
Yeah, we got a call from, I'm not sure if it was the young girl that left or if it was a neighbor that saw her walking around the street. So we'll get to the bottom of it. As soon as we make sure everybody's okay, then we'll figure out if maybe she was one of your kids that wandered away. How many kids do you have?
13.
13 total?
Yeah.
Woo! You guys are busy.
Yeah.
As the parents are talking, deputies head into the center of the house.
He's probably fine.
There's a hallway. They pass the parents' bedroom, then down the hall, 2 other bedrooms. The deputy looks in the first door and discovers a crushing scene. Those 2 young girls from their sister's photos. One is on a bed, the other a mattress on the floor. They are limp, frail, eerily quiet, caked in dirt. Their arms are bruised, but where are the chains?
Hi, sweetheart. Hi, girls. Can I see your wrist? Yeah.
Which one? Look.
Okay. Hi, how old are you?
Next, the deputy heads to the bedroom next door. 2 filthy bunk beds, but no child is chained. He pleads with the children. Can they tell him where are those chains?
Okay, thank you. We're here to help you. Okay? Just work with my guys. We will help you guys, okay?
Back at the front doorway, the deputy who has been talking to the parents notices something. Almost obscured by the 6'1" David Turpin and the pile of boxes to his right.
Another bedroom back here. You got another couple kiddos asleep there?
Yeah.
Sarge, you got another room in the front right here with 2 kiddos in the bed. Over here.
Tiptoe by the window, that is where I'll become tiptoe.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and begin these first appearances.
Speak to me, bro. You don't.
Sir, you're here for the charge of murder of a...
There ain't no Marquise Lord. Who are you?
All right, you're here for murder of a law enforcement officer. Attempted murder of a law enforcement officer, carjacking with a firearm, aggravated assault.
May I have your name, please?
The following interrogation has been analyzed by a qualified team consisting of 2 licensed attorneys, one being a former criminal prosecutor and an individual with a Master of Science in Clinical Psychology.
Look, you ain't learned yet? It's raining. Look, take me home. This man's still trying to speak. It's raining outside, y'all. It's still trying to speak. Look,
take me home.
for real, you not about to kill me and the baby. This man, he has to be stopped.
See, they just stopped.
No, but no, you need a greater force than that. I'm not going to live past 25. I'm not going to make it. Not like this. I don't know what I was getting myself into. I don't know what I signed up for.
When Sade Dixon spoke these words on a Facebook Live, she was simply making some lighthearted jokes. What she couldn't have known was that her dark prediction would ring true very, very soon, and in the most tragic way. This is Markeith Lloyd. He's 41 years old in this footage from 2017. He's just been apprehended by Orlando police after a massive manhunt that ended in officers finding him outside an abandoned house. While he waits about 25 minutes for detectives to arrive, he keeps asking for his handcuffs to be loosened, but nobody is in a hurry to help him. Multiple officers hover outside, clearly intimidating the suspect.
Hey, can y'all straighten these cuffs out for me?
Just 1 second, okay, guys? They coming out to do that.
They're real tight, but real tight. They numb the wrist of the cuff.
Markeith expects his complaints to be met with sympathy and proper treatment, in spite of the extreme circumstances that have led to this interrogation.
What? The cuff, they numb the wrist. They real tight, they crush them.
Don't worry about that. Alright, let me get the key right now.
No, I left mine in the car.
So keep in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Markeith's body language indicates physical discomfort. The longer he remains in physical discomfort, the more his mental state will be worn down.
Brother, can y'all straighten these cuffs out for me, please?
We getting the key. We getting the key.
Right now.
Excuse me, sir. Can y'all straighten this cuff out?
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it. Anybody got that now? You still got it? No. Okay. So make sure y'all look for it. We need to.
Markeith has his head down towards the table. This looks to be the result of physical pain or exhaustion. The longer they keep him waiting, the more his anticipation will build. It will also allow adrenaline to wear off and take some fight out of the suspect.
Excuse me, bro. You loosen up this right cuff for me?
Yes, sir.
Give us a look.
Let me check it. Yes, sir.
Come on, man, yo.
Listen, yes, sir. We're gonna take care of it. All right? We have the fire department coming to check you out and look at your injuries right now.
Okay, and then we'll be able to manipulate the cuffs for you. Okay, sir?
At this point, Markeith has remained relatively respectful, and the officer is reciprocating by calling him sir repeatedly. This, plus his assurances that medical help is coming, are a simple technique to earn trust from the suspect.
Man, could you lose the cuff up on me, please, bro?
Sir, we have a fire department that's going to come take care of it.
Where's that guy?
All right. So just
found his head on the ground.
As Markeith continues to wait, the door is left open and various officers and deputies come by to look at the suspect. However, treating him as an object of curiosity or scorn is likely counterproductive at this point. The animal at the zoo effect is a dehumanizing tactic, which may work counter to the purposes of the interrogation later.
More important for
Excuse me.
Yes.
You loosen up this right cuff?
We're still looking for that key, man.
Man, this shit killing me, bro, for real.
Help you out as you can.
For some reason,